Hello there, all you amazing people. I am going to see if I can do like a quick and dirty FOSS open source history lesson because a lot of people have accused me of not understanding it, and a lot of people actually really don't understand the free and open source. Or, well, when I say free and open source, they kind of intermingle with each other. But let's do this. Let's call it free software versus open source software, okay? So I'm going to do that now. No webcam, I'm trying to do it quick and dirty. Watch the video to the end. Before you comment, you don't judge the book by its cover and all that jazz. If you want to, give me a like, dislike, subscribe, click the link button, or activate the bell thingy. Go on to my Discord, you can recommend videos and whatnot. And, because this is a quick and dirty one, there may be small little things here I get wrong, or misremember some timelines, but the overall idea is the same, okay? We have to remember that this came first, this came second. It's really important to remember, and the free software was done by Richard Stallman, or people like him back in, the idea of it, I think, is all the way back from the 1970s or 1960s. I know he started GNU Foundation in the early 80s, but the idea of this was all the way back then. So you have to understand, why is that? Well, back in the day when Richard Stallman was a young lad and was doing his programming and stuff like that, servers didn't look like they look today. Terminals, computers didn't look like they look today. What he was working on the most would be something of the nature of having a big box with some big round wheels on them. This was the data. This was tapes. Or later on, they will have like data cards, or early on with I can't remember the timeline with this. I think they have had this first and then tapes, but punch cards. So the Joe developer here typically was not the one writing the code. He would come up with the big brain ideas, and he will, on a piece of paper, write down the fixes and give it to typically a girl, funny enough. And she would then write it to either tapes. Let's see if I can make a tape. Or a punch card, I think it was called, if you go way back. And then it will be put back into the server. So you can see the idea here. If you're running proprietary software, the software developer here, the Joe Blow, that will write down a lot. He will write down a lot of code and stuff like that, but the end product will still be done by the I was about to say psychiatrist, assistant and stuff like that. He will just, or he, mostly it was guys that were software engineers back then, you know, to give him a cap, would mostly just, like, on a piece of paper, fix some code. Like, this is wrong, we need this to be this instead. So they knew how to code and stuff like that. So you can see here, if there's a problem with this here, with this punch card or this tape here, Joe over here has to take that off and send it to a factory somewhere. And depending on the posters and stuff like that, it can take a long time, it cannot. And then they fixed it and they sent it back. Because he could not see the source code, he did not know what to do. They would send a revision or something like that. So of course, Mr. Stallman, the smart guy, will be like, why don't we be able to fix it? So we can then either ourselves just fix it and put it on, or we can send it to a secretary that can put it on, whatever, and get it back. I hope this makes sense, okay? That was the idea for open or for free software. It's not to make it free and widely available or take down big corporations. It was to reduce time to fix bugs and stuff like that. That was the root of the cause of it. That was the big idea of it. Let me clean out this stuff over here. So if we call this the OG idea, you know, that morphed into a little bit more of a political, philosophical idea. That then morphed into GNU. What most people see nowadays is this part here. They think about the GNU part. They're like, well, it's all about taking down big business. It's all a political aspect. It's all a philosophical. You can't debate that, you know, seeing the source code so you can fix it faster in the server room is a little bit of a philosophical idea. I would kind of agree with that. Political, not so much. But most people, they only look at the GNU part. This is where most people stand today and are like, yay, this is what free software is about. But it is kind of today, but that's not the story of it. GNU was not set out to take down Microsoft because Microsoft didn't exist back then. I honestly, I can't remember the timeline here, but I think GNU started before Microsoft was like an official business or anyone really had it on the radar. GNU did not start to say, fuck you, Microsoft. They either started around the same time, become an entity around the same time. GNU was meant for Unix servers to say, we want to have control over our servers. We want to be able to fix our server program software instead of having to send it and deal with it and pay for it and all that fucking shit. When I mean pay for it, I mean pay for support, send it out, and all of this hassle, dazzle. That's kind of like the OG or the origin of free software. That, of course, is morphed into something a little bit different today, I granted. But this here is like kind of in a nutshell. This whole timeline here is kind of in a nutshell what it's about. What about open source? That started in, I can't remember, it was late 90s. So what is the difference between these two? And all of this is information we can get from their respective websites. Well, open source just wants to get shit done. They don't care that much about the proprietary versus open, free software or openness of the code. They don't care so much about the politics, the philosophy. And the open source movement is a direct response to this. They didn't agree with a lot of what was going on here. They saw that as a little bit of a hindrance, a little bit of a, we are holding things back. So they did the open source movement. OSM, let's just call it that. That is just like, we really don't care. We just want to work. We don't care about your politics, your philosophical. They do a little bit, but not so much. They just want to be a person that work with another person that then make amazing software. And how, if that's mingling a little bit with proprietary software or evil corporations, they're kind of okay with that. And this is the camp that Linus is in. I hope this makes sense. So when you say FOSS, free and open source, it's a little bit like taking two quote-unquote enemies and whatnot and put them together. It's a little bit like saying it's like saying the Republicans and the Democrats are actually the same thing. They all want what's best for, in this case, America. So that's true, but they're going about it in two different ways. Of course, it's not to that extreme as politics, but you get what I'm coming at here. And that's why there's this like big, I'm not say fighting, but opposition between Linus and Richard Stallman. They kind of like each other and kind of don't. And the respective groups, like the open source movement versus the free software movement, kind of like each other, need each other, but also don't like each other, and wish they did needed each other. So when you see someone in the comment section go all about, it's about MS should go down, proprietary software should go down, world domination for FOSS is a must. It has nothing to do with, that's not the original story. All of these things here, all of this here, is something the community, the people adopted. All of these communities building around FOSS or free software or open source, they adopted all of this here with the support from GNU over here. They kind of co-signed this here, but it was not the original idea. If you look at a lot of the early interviews with Richard Stallman before this whole thing became like down with proprietary software, fuck you Microsoft, and world domination for FOSS, before that really became a thing. Like if you look at interviews with Richard Stallman from the 90s, 80s, early 2000s, he cared just about everything being open, free, free the source code. Not free as it didn't cost money, but everyone should be able to look at the source code, contribute to the source code, and blah, blah, blah. His most important thing was the GNU license. Not world domination, not take down, well, to some degree, take down proprietary software, but definitely not take down Microsoft and big businesses and stuff like that. And it definitely was not the main goal of the open source movement. Actually, the opposite. They just want to make cool shit and work with them. It's all manifested by the community, just like the community also manifested year of the Linux desktop. There was not like anything the open source movement did, or the free software movement did, or foundation, what we would call it. It's all in the heads of the community. And a lot of other things, like the take down big businesses. This is a business, also the community. Richard Stallman didn't really care that much about big businesses. He just wanted the software to be fixable. Later on, he kind of adopted that because it gave him more popularity, I suspect, and stuff like that. But it was something he kind of adopted later on in his journey with this whole thing. And all of this is documented on both respective sites. If you want to know the history about FOSS, go look at the Open Source Movement's website, the Free Software Foundation websites, and Richard Stallman's blog post. Don't listen to me, don't listen to any other YouTuber out there, because you want the purest information, read them. They are boring as fuck, long as fuck, but that's where you get the right information. So a lot of the modern day philosophies stems from the community coming out with crazy ideas. Most of the this is what FOSS is about, this is what free software is about, is community made up shit. Most of it. I should not pay for my software. Richard Stallman says in his license, there's ways of monetizing your software. Oh, FOSS is all about taking down big businesses. None of them has said that. None of them have made that in a statement anywhere. Oh, it's about world domination for the Linux desktop. Never a priority. Linus made Linux because he couldn't afford a Unix Spark system. And this new interesting Intel, was it 486 or 483 came out, and he wanted to fuck around with it. He did not make Linux to say, fuck you Microsoft, fuck you proprietary software. Linux was originally proprietary licensed. Maybe I should make another video about that. This here is like as simple as possible. I'm not going to make this super long and condense it, but this is like as simple as possible. The 10,000 foot view of what the difference between FOSS and open source is, the original idea behind openness of the code, and then what the community made it into. And most YouTubers, they tell you this story here. They don't tell you this. They don't tell you these two here. Because it goes a little bit against the fuck you Microsoft, fuck you Windows, fuck you proprietary software. Even though Richard Stallman wished all software was open for philosophical reasons, to a little bit politics, but to be able to fix code without having to, send it left, right, and center and stuff like that, which is a noble idea. But they didn't set out to want to combat the status quo, the current software development world. That's all made up by the users. I hope this clarified some things. And if you don't believe me, go read the FOSS site, freesoftware.org I think it's called, and the open source movement.org I think it is. Let's see if I can link them down below. Figure out the about page and read about it. Go watch interviews with Linus Torvalds about his viewpoints on Richard Stallman and GNU. There's a reason why I don't like the TPL version 3. He's not going to use it. And like I said, Linux used to be a proprietary software for I think a year or something like that. Or 6 months. But this is kinda it. It's this simple. Communities, user groups have a really good ability to make shit up, to fit a narrative they want to push out there. And it's being enforced by a lot of YouTubers, sadly enough. And a lot of people hate me for not subscribing to this. And that is because I started using Linux before all of this was a thing. This community thing here started really about, well, the idea of the Linux desktop started in 2000, but I would say about 2010 is where it really took off. It's where also Richard Stallman kind of really started to subscribe to these ideas, and not just kind of supporting them. And at that point, I already used Linux for like 12, 13, 15 years, I can't fucking remember. I used it when I was a fucking teenager. I used to help a guy put Linux on computers and sell them as office computers. And he worked for like a big company here in my town. And I started doing that in 6th grade, I think it was. I started helping him out. And he was the guy that introduced me into Linux. So yeah, in 6th grade, I helped a guy run a off-the-book company selling used computers with Linux. What did you do in 6th grade? See you all later. Bye-bye.